I want to start off by saying congratulations on the film. I've had a chance to sit down and watch the film, and I absolutely loved it. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about how this film came into being. It's such a personal film. Tell us a little bit about how it first started out for you with this journey for this film.
I've been writing screenplays seriously since around 2015. I had just started writing on my own because I had so much free time and I love writing, and that was my first love before I founded Barry's boot camp. And I wrote like 20 screenplays in a row. I just burned through them with the thought of getting better. And the last few, I thought maybe I've got something here. The first were garbage. the last few, I thought maybe it's enough for somebody to read, and they did. And he said, "Let's write something together." And that was The Chosen, which Terror Films bought and distributed. And then they hired me for Patient 7. And then I decided it was time to retire, and this is how I want to spend my retirement.
Yep.
Making films. So I started with a movie called Ashes, which tapped into some elements of my family and something kind of sad/funny that happened in our family with my Aunt Marion, who we weren't very close with, passed away, and my sister got her ashes and didn't want them. So I sort of inspired that movie. And then I started feeling like I've woken up to the fact that when I write, I'm tapping into personal experience or feelings or whatever it is. And with Killer Therapy, my second feature, I started at least bringing in the elements of child abuse as I experienced it. Not in the same way at all. It was a fictitious therapist who did this to the kid. And I was older than the kid. But you see, I'm starting to just tap my own resources.
Yep.
I think I wasn't really ready. I think to answer the question, the long answer is that this story was somewhat buried in me, and I had to be ready to tell it because this was my deep, dark secret. This was the big one, and I felt ready.
Yep.
I felt ready, and I also knew what to do with it. You forget the trauma. As a movie, I came up with the idea of Shane and Alex, and all that. It started formulating, so it could also be hopefully a well-written and well-produced movie. Shane represents the escapism. He's fun. He didn't really exist in my life, although I wished he did.
Yeah.
Alex is sort of, a lot of my timeline I squeezed into Alex's 1 year of age. It was truly all the things that happened to Alex really happened to me. They were just spread out over time. But the struggles with sobriety, being shut down, intimacy issues, fear-based, not believing in myself, not getting myself out there. Excuse me, guys. I have 3 dogs in here that are usually so quiet and don't move. But of course now. So that's how it kind of came to be. And I just felt like it was so from the heart that I decided I wanted to go back to the Hudson Valley where I was raised. And they found I gave them a picture, and they found a replica of the house I grew up in. A much nicer version, to be honest. But nonetheless, a replica. So, the entire layout looked exactly like my home. The trauma happened in the bedroom it happened, and, I was actually watching the monitor from what would have been my room.
Yeah. So, what was that moment like when you knew that you were ready to write the screenplay? Because as a screenwriter myself, I've tried to write about a really traumatic experience that happened in my life, and every time I sit down to write it, I've never been able to write about it. What was that moment like for you when you realized that you were ready to write about this?
Well, I felt like I was ready. Just the fact that I wanted to do it, I just thought I must have arrived at ready, because I hadn't been ready before. This story has been in my, percolating around for years. But I don't know what it was. Fear, family finding out things they would rather not know, or just revisiting it. I've been to so many years of therapy and revisit. That's usually the top category of my therapy. Everyone keeps going back to that is where my life changed.
Yep.
But after years of therapy and 18 years of sobriety and a loving group of friends who encouraged me to tell it, and a loving group of producers and crew and cast that assured me they were right there for me as we did it, I just kind of took a deep breath and did it. You know, once I had started, I was on a roll. Once I had the script, I was like, okay, this might be the best thing I've ever written, and I want to tell it. I want to do it.
Yeah.
It'll help somebody else. I'm hoping it'll help somebody else.
Yeah. Now, talking about the cast, you've been able to put together an absolutely amazing cast with this film, and we had a talk to Mike last week as well about the film. Tell us about that casting process, especially because this was a film that was so close to your heart and based on personal things. Did that make the casting more difficult for you?
Yes, because everyone is representing someone in my life, whether they knew it or not. And even though they are not carbon copies at all, I do have a female sponsor who's older than me, but she's much older than Sherry. She's like 78 years old. And I just wanted to make sure the dynamic of, you know, a young sober gay guy had an older woman sponsor, you know, and she had this maternal type of wisdom and strength. You know, maybe he was the son she didn't have, and he was the mother he didn't have. You know, whatever it was, they clicked together. So that was really important to me. That was actually one of the most important, because she represents my sponsor in life. Shane is funny because, all right, so, you know, guilty pleasure. When I was writing Shane, in my head, I get like voices and visuals. Hands down, without a doubt, it was every day I sat down, it was Ryan Reynolds, and he looked like he did in Amityville Horror.
Yep.
So I had that whole super muscular, beard, tall, intimidating sort of character in my head. But then when I was brought to Mike Manning and Nick Thurr to produce it, and got to know Mike via Zoom, because it was kind of COVID-y, and also I'm in Henderson, Nevada, I don't know, something, you know when you get an itch?
Yep.
Something just kept coming back to like, God, Mike would be a good Shane. And I wish I could put my finger on what it was, but there were elements of his personality that would come through that would make me think, this is a better idea for Shane. You know, this is a more relatable idea. You know, he's like the boy next door, you know, and he's damaged like the rest of us. So when I asked Nick, one day, Doug says, Mike ever mentioned wanting to be Shane? He said, no, but I can ask him if you want me to. And it's one of the great, I always say I've had a few nice ideas in my life. One of them was asking Mike to be Shane.
Yeah.
So he did ask him, and Mike Zoomed me and said, all right, I'm going to move myself out of producer into EP so I can absolutely 110% focus and dive in to this character. And we became brothers in arms, as he said. He gained 13 pounds of muscle. He went into boxing training. He dove into this character. We went over every line this character said together. And he was sort of my drill instructor, which is also great. He was always pushing me to be a better writer and a better director.
Yep.
And I really love him for that. I think that's how we get better, you know, and I'm so inspired by him. He's driven, he's talented. What he did to Shane was something I didn't envision and something I was so glad I ended up with. And then Gracie, it was the casting director brought me to her. She was kind of who I pictured. I did not know Ashley as an actress until I saw Riverdale, and I was like, oh, there she is. And she's Josie, and very good at that. But I looked at some stuff online, and I thought to myself, oh, this is a very, very beautiful, talented young woman. And then we met online, and she embraced Gracie. She knew exactly. She knew exactly where Gracie was coming from, some things that she wanted Gracie to have to say that I went and did some rewrites. And it was just clear to me I didn't have to look any further. And then Johnny, he found us. Johnny's a friend of Ashley's in life, and she gave him the script saying, you should look at this role for Alex. Because of Ashley, she can call that same casting director and said, I want to speak to Barry on Zoom today, like now.
Yeah.
And Steve Tyler O'Connor, actually texted me and said, he really wants to meet you right now. And he's really insistent on it. I loved that. I mean, that's the way to my heart. Obsession, driven, must have now. Those are my MOs. And Johnny and I, it started with something really funny. He said, why do you have all those cities like Nyack and Sloatsburg? I said, because I was raised in Rockland County. He goes, I was wondering. He said, I was raised in Rockland County, and I wondered, who knows these little cities? Both grew up in the same place. So we had reference of that same small town feel. And going back there was kind of surreal for both of us, back to the Hudson Valley. And we just clicked. Again, he just understood Alex. He saw where Alex was coming from. He got the fears and the anxieties. He got the desires. He had a great singing voice, you know. So he just, I knew it. I knew it right on that Zoom, like, we've been looking, and here he found us.
Yeah.
So thank God or universe or whoever. But the four main leads came together, you know.
Yeah.
And I could not be happier.
They do such an amazing job, but this film is such an intense film. What was that like for you as a director, directing these talented young cast in such intense scenes? Like, was it difficult at times?
Well, yes. I mean, look, I'm not going to lie. I'm still, 3 films in, the new kid on the block. And I'm dealing with people with a decade or more of experience, you know. It was an honor to be a director in a film that has Sherry and Mike and all that, but it was also like, you know, I better do a good job.
Yeah.
Because these guys know how to work with some serious directors. So, but I like that. I like working with people who make me work harder to level up, you know. That's something I believe in. I always want to work with people a little bit more advanced and work harder to get there. There were some intense scenes. Shane was great because of my background with Barry's and founding it. I knew a lot of that trainer's mentality stuff that actually applies to life. So that part was actually he was really fun to write. But as far as directing goes, the intimacy scene was very difficult for me. I'm not saying for them, but for me. And of course, reenacting the trauma was the most difficult. And then the opening scene with the hanging was also difficult.
Yeah.
Aside from that, it was all cathartic. Felt good. You know, the recovery meeting, listening to Veronica speak, the birthday, all that kind of stuff. The stuff that's taken from my life, but it felt good.
Yep. Well, Barry, I know we are running out of time very, very quickly, so I guess I want to ask, what would you like to say to people out there before they watch the film, and what would you like them to take away from the film after they've watched it?
There's a few takeaways. Thank you for asking that, depending on who you are. And I'll start out with what I think is the most important. If you are a kid like I was, and you are being abused, and you think the only way out is to remove yourself from this life, please don't. I wanted to. I dreamed of it. I thought about it. And at one time, almost did it. But I'm glad I didn't. I held on to the fact that I would one day be out of that house, out of that neighborhood, out of that school, and things would be different. And I just had to hold on to that. And I'm so glad I did, because I have a husband, dogs, a house, a life, making movies. None of that would have happened if I gave up back then, you know, as a teenager. So I hope it shows you to hang in there, that it will be worth it, that you can find the way out. And to the abuser, I hope it really cautions them. I mean, I don't even know what to say to abusers. It turns my stomach. But I hope if there's someone in that audience sitting and watching the movie and they've abused somebody, I hope it changes them. And, you know, if you're struggling with recovery and if you're angry and resentful, I hope the main message is forgiveness. Not forgiving what they did, but forgive so you're free. You know, forgive so you can forgive yourself. Whatever it is, you will feel better letting go and forgiving, even without an apology. You know?
Yeah.
Just build a life. You know? It's going to be really hard to build a life hanging on to resentment. You know? Once you forgive and let go, you can start doing the building blocks. That's the first building blocks of a good life.